just landed in Leadership and Enlightenment, a podcast where the guests are exceptional humans that have faced their fears to crest into their best selves, growing into a way they can help their communities, creating opportunities, and sharing their secrets and their tips that they learned along the way. Without further ado, here we are, my friends. Have a great time today and enjoy Leadership and Enlightenment.
A bit about
when I first met you, you kind of showed me that you had brought your life through a professional career aspect into a world of service. Is just the way it sounded to me. You really had invested yourself into helping youth. I know that you're, a professional catching coach, that you played professional baseball, that you actually won a World Series. I mean, these are things that are exceptional in, the life of a human. I mean, I'm sure the audience would love to hear a little bit about that. Why don't you set us up a little?
man, well, there's a lot there. I started playing when I was 5, and it really started because when I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher told my parents I was bad at sharing. So
So you got into sports, huh?
yeah, so she said I should get involved in a team sport. My dad was a baseball lover. He was always playing pickup softball and, old man baseball. He was in his 30s, so I guess not old man, but he was playing park league baseball, and I was around it, so I took to it right away. And I went to a Dodger game when I was 5, and I decided I was gonna be a major leaguer myself. So I had this big goal that was my North Star forever. And even though there was the big goal, I kind of focused on, well, what's the next step along the way? So to make the 8-year-old All-Star team, make the 10-year-old All-Star team, make the 12-year-old All-Star team. And each step, it was just another rung on the ladder until I got to college and I won the NCAA batting title. And then the bigger dream kind of started to feel more of a reality.
It kind of kicked in when you first felt it when you were a kid. Do you remember that feeling? Like what it felt like inside when you saw it and you were like, that's what I want to do. I have a personal story myself that I felt that 30 years ago and I ended up in this place. And it was a distinct feeling like I had gotten poked on the inside. And it was like, that's cool. I like that. And
Interesting.
it kind of just led me.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel like it. Just felt like it just felt right. Like it didn't feel like a bolt of lightning. It was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's neat. And then when it really kind of resonated with you and you saw your talents, did you feel like at that time, like I can stand above and really show my talents, or you were still working on your game all the time? You really felt like it was a process you had to get into?
Yeah, I'd say once I got into high school baseball, I was one of the smallest ones my age because I was a late bloomer and I was young for my grades. There got to be this like, I need to prove it to like, I know I'm good enough. I know I can be good enough, and I know I'm gonna do whatever it takes, but not everyone believes in me. Not everyone else sees it. So I'm going to go prove it.
And was there something around you that kind of gave you more, like this is where the podcast goes. It's leadership enlightenment. Like there's this light around us that we feel like kind of guides us in situations when we're on a mission or in this place that feels like we're in flow. And like, did you feel like there's something around you as well? Or was this like a personal mission for yourself? Like your ego is driving through it? Or was it like, this is more, I feel like I'm part of a bigger mission along the way too.
I think you can motivate two people in two different ways. And I was working with Crocs recently, and their CEO came in to introduce me and my partner to do our leadership program that we were brought in to do. They had brought in people in leadership roles from 10 countries on 4 continents around the world for this meeting with us. As he's setting us up, they're asking him questions. They ask him about motivating people that aren't necessarily on the same page as a leader. And the CEO of Crocs was saying you can motivate people by raising the ceiling on what's possible and raise a bigger picture. And oftentimes 3 times more powerful than that is lowering the floor, is, showing them how bad the current situation is, or why they want to make a change and not just continue the status quo right now. And when you can do both, you raise the ceiling on what's possible, you lower the floor on where they are right now, and then you work together to get towards a solution. That's when you motivate people. All that being said is that I think raising my ceiling was, I want to play in the major leagues. I want to be the best that I can be. And I want to lower the floor. I think my greatest fear was not being the best that I could be. So my floor, my ceiling motivation were both the same exact thing. And then working with myself to try to figure out how to get there, it was, well, I'm going to do everything in my power, whether that's physical work in the gym, skill work on the field in the cage, or mental work. I'm going to do everything that it takes to get myself to where I want to be.
And I think the mental part for me is, obviously what I'm going to key in on a little bit, because And I joke about myself. There was a time I thought maybe I could be a professional golfer. My brother had the talent. And he was in a lot of ways emulating your lifestyle. And he placed third in state in golf in high school. When it really got down to like facing these challenges mentally along the way, I don't think he was willing to dive in at the time. He has since. I have as well. And you find great strengths within yourself when you're willing to go in and really kind of match wits with that part of yourself too, and realize like, this is going to be a challenge. I'm going to be able to face this challenge. And along the way, it's going to set these roadmaps that I can use later on as well. And I take it, that obviously was some skill set or some processes that you use when you were in professional baseball and to win a World Series. I mean, I want to get into how you're helping people now, but I can't let this go. You got to give us a little bit about how did that feel? Where were you at? What was your team?
Yeah, so I think every baseball player at some point is a little bit superstitious. Little bit, maybe not a lot, maybe not superstitious, but at least a little stitious is the quote that I hear all the time. So I get to the major leagues, and when I was a rookie, 2011, if you'll remember, I got called up. I had hit like 30 homers in the minors. I was minor league player of the year for the third year in a row. I got called up in August, and we had a 15-game lead in the division. And then I got sent down for a couple days, got called back up, and all of a sudden, the team didn't know we were going to win anymore. We hoped we were going to win. And the 2011 Boston Red Sox had a little bit of that chicken and beer fiasco where we didn't end up making the playoffs. I was sitting on the bench, watching this, not really getting a chance to play, get a chance to help, but like just this was my first taste of the big leagues was what's happening. We're losing. Then the next year, they fired Terry Francona, they fired Theo Epstein, or they left on their own, whatever it was. Brought in Bobby Valentine. 2012 is my second taste of the big leagues. Disaster, right? We can't win a game. They end up firing Bobby Valentine that next year too. And then the next year we have another new manager. I'm like trying to make my stamp and establish myself in the big leagues. And we have a couple new players, and I'm worried about like saying the wrong thing. And on the first day of spring training, I meet some of the new players and I introduce myself. I'm like, hey, how are you? I'm Ryan. And Johnny Gomes says, I'm great. We're one day closer to the World Series parade. And I'm like, you can't talk about that. You're going to jinx it. Like we lost 97 games last year. You can't talk about that. And he was like, well, if we don't talk about it, how are we going to do it? So that you talk about like, where was I at mentally with the World Series and how cool was that? It totally changed the way I feel about don't talk about your dreams because you're going to jinx it. Or you have to talk about your dreams because otherwise it won't come true.
Brother, I just spent some time with a youth on Friday about that. And this person was like, I have it all up here. I'm good with that. And I'm like, I get that. I was up there for many years and felt like I was in control of my life in a very codependent way. When I released it and allowed it to come through me, it opened new space for other things. And I was able to actually appreciate the fact that we're stronger than we think we are. We just tend to hold on to all of this baggage, not realizing there's a place for it, and that everybody can learn from it. The podcast kind of an idea when you're really investing into the community with knowledge and wisdom, the community can learn from it. It's not just yours. And I think that there's magic in that thought process. It's neat to see how we relate to each other as we grow through our lives as humans with different mediums. I have a neighbor that raises livestock, and like he has lessons that he's taught me that really align in these same ideals. And I'm like, yeah, wow, that's crazy. That was around animals. Like I learned it in the convention industry in Las Vegas, and thinking to myself, like, what is a CEO? What is a president? What makes that quality of an individual versus those of us that are learning along the way, that take, steps to learn about ourselves. And then we just evolve into this place where we're actually helping others around us just by that example of what you just said, like, really taking that step inside and going like, there's more here.
Yeah.
We can take a new approach to it. Now, so tell us, I know you've written a book recently or journals, and that you've posted or written a book as well. Tell us something about that, because I know that's just going to throw us way over here on right field compared to where we just were.
Yeah, so when I first started speaking, I was speaking to Jewish audiences about playing for Team Israel, and that was a life-changing experience for me because I wasn't connected with my Judaism at all growing up. So then I was speaking to these audiences, and my rabbi was like, "This needs to be a kid's book because kids need to like hear that you can choose Judaism, not just be born into it. There's not a lot of Jewish athletes, so you're a role model for them in that regard." And writing a kid's book when I wasn't familiar with medium of that for a while because I didn't have my daughter yet, was very humbling experience. I submitted it to all sorts of publishers. I got told no a lot for a variety of different reasons, and then ended up deciding to self-publish and sold about 2,000.
Cool, dude.
Puts me in the
That's so
top like
awesome.
3% of self-published authors, which is pretty
What's
cool.
the name of the book?
It's called Baseball and Belonging.
That's cool.
And then from there, I was like, oh, well, I don't only speak to Jewish audiences. I also speak, actually, I speak way more often to corporate audiences, leadership audiences, sales teams. I need something for them. So I put together all of the best mindset exercises that I had with mental skills coaches from my entire career. And I put it into a journal, into the Why Not journal. And journaling was a big part of my mindset journey for my career. I really enjoy journaling. And then recently, I wanted to work with my illustrator again. So we came out with a coloring book. My daughter is 3. She's learning her letters. She loves coloring and coloring books. So we came out with the ABCs of Resilience new coloring book. And this just came out
That's
a couple
so
weeks ago.
awesome.
So
That's
it
so
went from
awesome.
like publishing something was one of the most humbling experiences of my life to now I'm all of a sudden 3 times published and looking
And
towards,
empowered.
and looking towards like what's the next thing I'm going to publish, because now it's like something that I
Yeah.
believe in. I know how it works.
Well, that's cool because this usually at this part of the podcast, it kind of comes out this way. And my buddy the other day said the outside of the pickle jar. And that's why I asked you that question. Like when you were younger, did you know that you were going to be setting this example for other people? And we don't. A lot of times we don't realize that we're setting an example. We're living our lives and around us, this light's shining. We don't know it's shining, but it's shining. And people are looking at it going, holy moly, like Ryan can do that. He's writing some books to show how he can help the youth grow a step above where they're at. And like, that's the big goal, isn't it? I have 2 kids myself. And I swear every time I have a chance to talk to youth, I think, and youth to me is in their 20s or younger. But I think to myself, if I had somebody around me at that age that I was actually able to ask some questions for and not feel like I was being guided because it was somebody in my work environment. I had a great coaching session on Friday, and she's out of college and she's an intern. And she just has this opportunity to ask me these really straightforward questions, like about this and about that. And what is it like to be on the spectrum in your working environment? And what does it feel like to be afraid? Like one of my bigger fears was standing in front of the board and saying the wrong thing or mixing up 2 words because my brain was moving faster than my mouth. And, I heard this great term the other day called neurodivergence. And, we're all learning. And we all learn in our own particular ways, and we all grow and we all exceed in our own particular ways. And I think when people have a chance to hear your story, they realize like, a baseball player isn't just born. They're made. They work hard to be who they are. And this is life. Whatever you decide that you're going to do in life, you need to get in there and kind of dig it out. And I've recently learned, like, if I give myself a chance to learn, then I'm going to be all right. It's going to be fine. If I'm able to give that space for that, if I get myself caught up into, I don't know, you can easily fear yourself out of taking steps like writing books. Like I'm an athlete. Why would I write a book? I'm in the same world. I'm an old banquet guy that out there helps people negotiate contracts in hotels. Where do you find yourself in that equation? I just think that there's this ideal. I had a friend of mine who used to set a great example for me. I was a waiter working in a restaurant wearing white on whites back in the day, like an ice cream man. And this guy would walk out with his jacket over his arm and say goodbye to everybody waving. And I thought one day, that's where I want to end up, with some freedom like that. It wasn't the jacket. It was just the fact that he had the freedom to dress and be a certain way. And I know that propelled me and put me into my career. And I used to help my team see that and say, you might be having a bad day where you're at, but there's 1,000 people looking at you and aspiring to hopefully one day be where you are. And so there's a responsibility to set that stage in life every day, I think.
Yeah.
What's in the future, bud? Where are you planning taking this thing? I mean, we've heard about your speaking engagements. I know the audience would be interested in hearing you in front of their teams. You have more than what I can imagine to offer in skills and tips and things to take away. Is there anything you could leave the audience with today that you think that they could really take into their day-to-day life to help them take that next step?
Yeah, well, for me, my biggest thing is, believing in possibility and questioning anything that you believe is going to limit you. The reason that I called my journal the Why Not journal is because when I was in high school, I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't the strongest. Like the world was telling me that my dream was crazy and that I shouldn't play in the big leagues. And I probably never would have if my coach hadn't asked me a question one time when I was ready to hear it of like, well, why not you, Ryan? Why not you? And I thought I knew the answer, right? I thought it was because I was too slow. I thought it was because my defense wasn't very good. I thought it was because my arm was average. I was small. I hadn't made the varsity. Someone was in my position. But when he asked me why not, I started questioning all those limitations and really stopped accepting them. And then when I got to college, I believed I could be the game changer now, but I wasn't setting goals that were big enough, right? My goal was to win all Ivy League. My coach said, well, why not go for All American? Why not more? So why not, right? Why not question it? And that year, the Red Sox, we had lost 97 games the year before, but we were a good team. It wasn't the media thought we were a disaster. They thought we had no chance. We weren't a good bet. But we believed in like, why not us? And anytime somebody starts to think they need more information, anytime somebody starts to think, well, I'll do it next week. I need to do this. I need to do that. Why not just get started? Why not start right now? So you say like, is there one thing I want your audience to hear? Why not? Why not do it?
Well, there we go. Another amazing example of the universe working in its magnificent way today. Appreciate you showing up and look forward to seeing you again at Leadership and Enlightenment.